Okay, I'm going to get started for our ACE Your Finals webinar. I'm not sure if we have any viewers now, but if you're able to watch this at another time, you'll be able to go through the whole webinar, whether you're able to do it live or not. So this is Christina Santos, Director of College Retention and Success at Philadelphia Futures, and really happy to be offering our first webinar to our collegians. We don't have a chance to see you during the semester, and so it's great to have the opportunity to see you and talk to you a little bit uh, over the web. Okay, let me try this again. I think we had a problem with the connection. This is Christina, Director of College Retention and Success, with our first ever webinar. Excited to be talking to you about acing your finals. It's an important topic. So I hope that even if you're not able to join us live tonight, that you let us know if you're able to watch this later and if you find it helpful. I'm just going to walk through some slides to talk about what you can do to excel on your finals. So the three keys to acing your finals, what we're going to be focusing on first is plan, plan, plan. We can't say this enough. Planning is so important. Some of what we're going to talk about tonight it's not only important for finals, but it's important for the semester. And I know that you have heard this from us before. So some of what you hear and see is going to be familiar because it's very similar to what we tell you to do at the beginning of the semester. The next part, and I joke, but I do mean this seriously, is you have to stick to the plan. I don't know what happened to the slide there. You have to stick to the plan. The plan is not really any good if you are not sticking to it, if you aren't referring back to it. So we're going to talk about what you can do to stick to the plan that you create, because definitely it can be challenging. And the third thing we want to talk about tonight is staying healthy, taking care of yourself. As you know, this year we are focusing on our wellness wheel and being our best selves. In order to really be your best self academically, you do have to be your best self in other areas as well, including physically, emotionally, and etc. All of the different areas on our wellness wheel. So let's talk a little bit about planning. Putting the time and effort into plan will pay off in the long run. Some of what I'm about to show you is going to look time consuming, and it can be, but it's going to help in the long run. So definitely encourage you to put the time in to do weekly planning, especially as you're coming up on finals. The first part of creating your finals plan is to gather all of your dates together. Here's a sample finals week plan for the week of December 7th. This is a pretty standard freshman finals week. Econ, bio, psych, French, and English 101. What this schedule has that I think a lot of students have is not only actual exams, but projects, reports, and portfolios of work that students do throughout the semester. Getting your dates together so that you can see where your overlaps are is so critically important. Over here on the 11th, you'll see that there's multiple things due here. There's the econ final project, the French oral exam, English 101 writing portfolio. Only one of those things has to happen that day, and that's the French oral exam. The economics final project and the English 101 writing portfolio can be planned to happen at another time. And that's step 2 of creating your plan. When you have multiple projects due on the same day, set your own earlier deadlines. So you can see crossed out due on Friday and move them. Turn the econ final project in on the same day as the econ exam so that you can really focus on the other things throughout the week. Turn in the English 101 writing portfolio on the day when you don't have any other exams, if you need to do last minute proofreading, printing, anything like that. So one of the things that I think students sometimes forget about, but that's so critically important, is that you can be in charge of your own deadlines. There are some things that you can't move. You very likely, unless you have 3 exams scheduled in one day, probably don't have much of a chance of getting an exam moved. But anything else that's due on a particular day, you don't have to even talk to somebody else about moving that deadline. You do that for yourself. So really want to encourage students to sit down, plan out everything that is available on syllabus for each class in terms of when they're due and when your exams are. And then you have to look at that critically. Writing it down is not enough. It's really working with that information and knowing what can I move to make it work for myself. The actual creating of the plan is important not only for the finals week, but for the 2 weeks before finals. There's so much that has to be done leading up to finals week. You actually have a lot of flexibility during finals week. So the 2 weeks prior are more complicated actually to do your planning. This schedule probably looks pretty familiar to you. This is something that we talk about all the time, Abby, Sheree, Tammy, and I, and that's doing a basic weekly plan and then doing specific weekly planning each week to schedule in not only your tests, exams, due dates, but your meals, your sleep schedule, recreation, gym, meetings, what have you. It's not until you put all of those things on paper that you are really able to see where your available time is. And once you've done that, then you can start to schedule in where you're going to put the time in to do your work, where you're going to put the time in to spend a couple of hours in the library or working with a study group, for example, which is on this schedule, where you're going to spend the time not only reviewing, but really doing significant studying. Other things to consider when you are making that plan: identify your study locations. This is an important thing that sometimes folks neglect. We study and learn differently. So some people like a little bit of noise in the background. Some people like it really quiet. Some people find studying with friends is helpful. Others really need to be alone. Evaluate what works best for you and figure out where a good location is. You're far enough into the semester now that even if you're a first-year student, you should be coming up with some favorite places on campus. So identify your study locations, be thinking about where you're going to be hanging out during the weeks leading up to finals and the actual finals week. Schedule your study groups. If you're going to be working with friends, make that something that's formal. You're much more likely to get work done if you are scheduling something, reserving a room in the library or study lounge, as opposed to being in somebody else's room and everybody ordering pizza, and maybe you're getting a little bit of work done, maybe not. If you're scheduling it as a formal group, if you find that working with other people is helpful, I think you're going to find that really helps you. So get that on the schedule. And make note of office hours or tutoring, writing center appointments in the weeks leading up to finals. If you have a writing portfolio due, you may need several appointments at the writing center, or you may want to go to office hours several times so that you can have a faculty member review your work. So looking at office hours, making your tutoring appointments, those resources get so full as we get towards the end of the semester. So being the proactive person who's putting those things on the calendar now is only going to benefit you. Are you serious? I really am. I do have a sense of humor, but I know this seems like a lot, but planning is what's going to help you really be the master of your own success. If you are not putting the time and energy and effort in up front, your results are not going to be as significant if you're winging it. So yeah, I really am serious. Putting the planning time in is really important because I don't want you to feel like this, okay? Here's our Venn diagram. This is the material from the lecture. There's the material from the textbook. Here's what I studied. And way out here is what's on the test, okay? What I don't want to happen is for you to not know where to put your time and effort and energy. We want to help you know what you're focusing on so that you feel confident going into finals, knowing that you have put forward your best effort. What to study? I think that's a really common question. Start by reviewing tests and quizzes if you're in a class that has those things. That's always a great place to start, especially if you're taking a final that is cumulative. Use review tools in the textbook if they're available. If it's a book that has summary at the end, that has review problems, that has study guides, use those. If there's an online component, use those. But the thing I think that's typically my biggest recommendation is to create your own study guide and ask your professor to review it. You're much more likely to have a faculty member share with you, give you some feedback if you have gone in with some preparation. If you go in and say, this is my study guide, this is what I'm planning on preparing for the exam, can you tell me if I'm on the right track? You're going to be much more likely to get some direct feedback from a faculty member if you do that, as opposed to, can you tell me what's on the final? Well, what's on the final is what we taught, what I learned this semester. But if you've done specific work and you can show that effort to your professor during office hours and say, can you let me know if I'm on the right track? This is what I'm planning on studying. I think that you will have some success. If you have a question about how to do this, send me an email, because I have a good handout on how to do this. And I think actually we'll make that into a blog post in the next week or two, so that you can have a good prompt on how to create your own study guide for an exam. Sticking to the plan. It's really the hardest thing about finals week is that you have a ton of free time. I think that it can be really tough for students to have so much free time, not to have their not to have classes and not to have that structure built into their schedules. So that's often a tough thing for students, but I think it's really important to put some structure in for yourself so that you can feel confident that you are going to have luck sticking to that plan. So if you build in, when am I having my meals? When am I having my study groups? When am I going to office hours? That's going to put the structure in for you so that you have some parameters around your time. Don't waste all of your planning time by getting distracted. It's so easy to get distracted when everyone's hanging out, ordering pizza, watching movies. I remember finals week and reading days being serious procrastination times, and it doesn't have to be that way. And you don't have to you don't have to spend a lot of time doing nothing and then a lot of time cramming. You really can spread that time and effort out. I want to talk about staying healthy for a couple of minutes. My number one recommendation always is to wash your hands. It is the key to staying healthy, especially if you live on campus, but also if you're commuting to campus, you take public transportation. Washing your hands is critically important. We all have germs, and there's crazy statistics on how many times a day we touch our faces. Think about all the other things that you're touching in the world. Washing your hands is so important. Eat regular meals, even if you're keeping your regular hours. I know that finals time tends to be really wacky in terms of the amount of time that people are awake versus asleep, not really having a schedule, but try to eat regular meals, and drink plenty of water, especially if you're drinking a lot of caffeine. I know that coffee, energy drinks, those things are so common during finals week, but drinking plenty of water, keeping yourself hydrated is really important. And try to get enough sleep. All-nighters leave you tired and susceptible to illness, and it becomes that much more difficult for you if you are not well rested. So you shouldn't have to pull all-nighters if you are putting the time in to plan your study time and you're not cramming. I'm going to skip through this here and just kind of go to our summary, which is plan, stick to the plan, and stay healthy. Those are the three main things that we have focused on. A couple of resources that I want you to keep in mind, and that is our Facebook page, our Twitter profile, and our blog. For more tips and information over the next couple of weeks, you'll have access to this webinar, as well as I'm going to do a blog post on creating your own study guide. We are, I think, on our 4th week of a series of blog posts about managing stress. This week is going to be about mindfulness and meditation. We've done other posts on eating healthy, using exercise. So that's a great series, but we'll be sharing some other academic tips as well. The other thing is, if you'd like some help with your finals study plan, if that seems overwhelming to you, ask your Philadelphia Futures advisor. Ask Cherie, ask Tammy, ask Abby, ask me. We're very happy to work with you to look at what are your deadlines, when are your exams, what do the next couple of weeks look like, and how can we really find the time that's going to work for you so that you feel prepared for your exams. Because if you have been doing your best up to this point, this is the culmination of that. So you should feel really good and confident going into that time. I'm wondering if we have any questions. I know underneath the viewing box on my Google Hangouts page, there is a box that says say something, and you can type in a comment or a question. I'm not sure if you have that option. I hope that you do. But I'm also going to check our Twitter and Facebook just to see if anybody had any questions. Let me just see here. Doesn't look like we had anything come in on Twitter. And let me check Facebook also. Doesn't look like anybody else posted any questions on the page. So let me just check one more time and see if we have anything here. Doesn't look like it to me. And so if we don't have any other questions, or if we don't have any questions, I'm going to wrap this up. If you enjoyed watching this webinar, please tell your futures friends that it will be available for them to watch at another time, even if they missed it live. And wish you the best on your finals in the next few weeks. If you haven't done so, give a call to your advisor, let your advisor know how you're doing. We're really wishing you all the best, not only for your academic wellness, but for all your areas of wellness. So thanks a lot for tuning in, and I'm going to tune out. So have a great night. Thanks. Bye-bye.